Well, a very good evening to you and welcome to RTV News with me, Fiona Mbabazi, and of course I'm joined by my guest anchor shortly. The government of Rwanda, at the request of the government of Mozambique, started the deployment of a 1,000-person contingent of the Rwanda Defense Force and the Rwanda National Police to Cabo Delgado province in Mozambique, which is currently affected by terrorism and insecurity. The joint force will work closely with the Mozambique Armed Defense Forces and forces from Southern African Development Community SADC in designated sectors of 4 responsibilities. Now, the Rwandan contingent will support efforts to restore Mozambican state authority by conducting combat and security operations as well as stabilization and security sector reform. This deployment is based on the good bilateral relations between the Republic of Rwanda and the Republic of Mozambique following the signing of several agreements between the two countries in 2018 and is grounded in Rwanda's commitment to the responsibility to protect doctrine and the 2015 Kigali Principles on the protection of civilians. The health experts are urging people in Rwanda to step up the implementation of COVID-19 preventive measures because the Delta variant may already be in the country. Kigali residents have been flocking to health centers and hospitals voluntarily to get tested. We have the details.
Most of those going for testing say they have neighbors that have contracted the virus, which is why they want to know whether or not they too have it. The reason I came for testing is because last week I spoke to someone who later told me that they had been infected. That is why I came here. We are all just trying to stay safe and healthy, so even the slightest change in the way you feel could prompt you to come for testing, and that is why we are all here. I came here to check that I am not infected with COVID and step up my preventive measures. However, I feel like I have the symptoms. I am fatigued and generally do not feel well. I did not feel it appropriate not to come for testing, and yet in my neighborhood there is a problem. Because COVID-19 testing at health centers is free of charge, they have now been overwhelmed by the flood of people going to them. It used to be that not many people came for testing. Now, however, it is almost overwhelming. At times, there are just too many people to test with the equipment we have, and one of the reasons for this is because private clinics and hospitals charge those who go to them for testing, and most people cannot afford to pay. If testing were to be free everywhere, it would reduce the load on us. Out of the 50 or so people who come to us, 10 or 15 are usually positive for the virus. The most we have had in a day is 16. In addition to the regular COVID-19 virus, Rwandans have to worry about variants are also a serious problem, one in particular.
So the Delta variant is the more spreading virus today in the world when you compare to the initial ancestral mutation or variant, which was a variant identified in the first in Wuhan. So that variant, that means just to simplify the terms. So we know that every time a virus has just to change, to mutate. When a virus enters into the body, it just changes its shape after some hours. It becomes another virus. What it changes in virus is what we call the genetic material. The genetic material that is just to give you maybe a picture, a clear picture. It's like when you take a book. In the book you have writing, you have sentences. If you change one just syllable, one letter in the book, then you miss the message of the sentence. That is how the virus changes.
The professor says the best thing Rwandans can do now is step up their COVID-19 preventive measures and implement them properly.
What can be done is to strengthen the restriction measures. So we are seeing in different parts of the world where the Delta variant is more predominant that there have been decrease in terms of the restriction. Even here, of course, wearing a mask, keeping a social distance, washing your hands every time, using the appropriate measures, this is really number one. This has to be done. just to avoid at least to see a total lockdown happening with all consequences that we know. At least we should just respect this and strengthen these restrictions measures. So there are some events we see today, like the UEFA 2020, the football matches, where you see people that are really in mass gathering. Those are really the sources of the increase and the result of this increase. So you should avoid those kind of social gathering, whatever they are, even here in Rwanda, just to see at least we can decrease the numbers. You have seen the numbers are increasing the daily basis. At least we decrease these numbers, and also we be able to fight this new variant, which is more critical than the first one.
Government officials are also urging the general public to respect the preventive measures in place. Let me take this opportunity to warn people. We have a pandemic on our hands, and that is obvious for anyone to see, with more people coming into hospitals and health centers with symptoms. Some of them so sick we are obligated to take them to specialized treatment centers like the Nyarugenge Hospital. The Kanyinya Center has also been reopened, and so has Gatenga. So there are many infections in Kigali, and Rubavu too has also been putting up very high numbers. We must therefore all rigorously implement the COVID-19 measures, because a person can protect themselves from this virus.
Icyo tugomba gukora twese ni ukongera kuzirikana amabwiriza yo kwirinda COVID-19 kuko birashoboka ko umuntu yayirinda.
More than 3,300 fresh infections have been recorded during this week alone, as well as 51 fatalities. The pandemic has claimed more than 520 lives since it was first detected in the country in March last year.
Well, thank you, Serge, for that story. And indeed, it is our role to play to keep safe and to maintain the measures that have been put in place. Now, today was the fourth day of a 10-day tour organized by a group of young people from the Rwandan diaspora based in Belgium. This project has been facilitated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Culture in Rwanda. Amandine Dikumasao has the details.
Around 60 young people from the Rwandan diaspora, respectively based in Canada, Netherlands, London, but mostly in Belgium, have registered to a trip project to visit Rwanda as the country celebrated the 27th liberation. The purpose was to learn the history of Rwanda and discover the beauty of the country of thousand hills. It's so far a beautiful experience, as Nkusi Patrice explains.
I really appreciate Rwanda Youth Tour. Because of them, I got to see another side of, a side of Rwanda that I'd never seen before, and they also gave me the opportunity to see my country and to understand the full history of it and what haven't happened.
This Friday was dedicated to the visit of the Campaign Against Genocide Museum and a Q&A session led by the Honorable Ministers Dr. Vincent Biruta, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Madame Rosemary Mbabazi, Minister of Youth and Culture, and General James Kabarebe, the Senior Defense and Security Advisor in the Office of the President.
You as the youth that are ready to take over and move on this country to the next step have no excuse whatsoever of failure. I think failure is not something that we should even think about, because looking at the insurmountable challenges that the country has gone through and overcome them and moved on and even achieved what seemingly looked impossible, this should give us great courage. It should give us, impetus to work even harder.
Minister Vincent Biruta appreciated this initiative and encouraged young people from the Rwandan diaspora to come back serve the country in the future.
What we are expecting from you, and of course in the future we'll be able to come here and do some work in this country, either in public sector or just invest in private sector. But you just need to understand that this is your country. The people, the leaders you are seeing here today are giving their contribution. Some of us have done it in the past. Some others are joining in the process. But tomorrow it will be yourselves. But even today, you have a contribution to make.
Sandrine Wimbabazi Maziateke, the director of Rwanda Community Abroad in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has acknowledged the important role the diaspora communities play in the areas of financial, virtual and physical transfers, image building, good governance, trade and investment. Annual trips such as this are going to be organized moving forward. Amandine Dikumasabo, RTV News.
Well, thank you, Amandine, for that story. Now, the Ministry of Education has announced as final exams draw near, with the primary school leaving examinations starting on the 12th of July to the 14th, while secondary school leaving examinations commence from the 20th of this month. Now, TVET exams are also slated for this month. During a virtual presser, the Director General of the National Examination and School Inspection Authority, NESA, Dr. Bernard Bahati, said the exam papers this Friday will be delivered to all schools across the country.
Preparations have been successful with the help of other stakeholders. The students registered via technology. Some exams have already been set, and so are the rules. Through the national budget, we have achieved a lot, and cars have been dispatched today so that by Saturday all is ready and rehearsals are done on Sunday in preparations for Monday.
The State Minister in the Ministry of Education says that despite the pandemic, measures have been put in place to ensure a safe and smooth period, while calling on parents to be extra careful at home with the candidates and ensure that they attend their exams on time.
These are special times because of the pandemic, but they also studied through it. During the exam period, we have to be careful and the numbers will be small. We are calling on parents to be extra careful and respect the measures in place. We also want all registered students to show up on D-Day.
Statistics from the Ministry of Education shows that 254,678 students will sit for their primary level examinations, while 122,320 will sit for their O-levels, while those sitting for the final S6 examinations are 50,888, while those from the TVET stand at 22,779 candidates. Now, NESA estimates that the budget is expected to be between 11 billion to 12 billion Rwandan francs, while last year it was estimated at 11 billion, which is from the national budget. Now, those that have knowledge of the history of our country say that before 1994, Rwanda was not known as it is today, as foreigners now desire to work and live in Rwanda. Experts and analysts believe that all this has been achieved through hard work and having a vision.
Kigali City has been tremendously transformed over the decades and is nothing like it used to be before the country became liberated in 1994. According to Laurent Hongori, a lawyer, the transformation is also reflected in the welfare and livelihoods of people. Rwanda to me is a motherland, but often when one talks about the country itself, trees, rivers, mountains and monkeys are included. A country like the nation is the one that can provide security. During the reigns of Kayibanda or Habyarimana, the nation of Rwanda, I now call motherland, was non-existent. According to Sheikh Abdul Karim Harimana, a veteran politician, before the liberation, Rwanda was only known for bad things and Rwandans were looked down on. In neighboring countries, Rwanda was known in a bad way, like the Ugandans used to call Rwandans just laborers. Back when I studied there in the 60s and 70s, in Burundi they considered Rwanda as a country that just provided refugees, the same as in Congo. Even Rwandans at that time were afraid to identify themselves as Rwandans because it was shameful, except some who didn't have any other choice about it. Foreigners who know Rwanda testify that Rwanda has built a good reputation worldwide. A Frenchman who works for one of the French companies in Rwanda by the names Régis Tissière could not agree more. Never wait for someone else to recognize your value. It is your job to know your value, not just through words, but through actions that display your values and principles. First and foremost, our country has managed to wipe out the bad image through unity, as all Rwandans are considered the same. Secondly, hard work is needed in order to remove Rwanda from the list of poor countries worldwide. And lastly, Rwandans should do activities that mark them on the map. The image of Rwanda is reflected in her contribution in various levels internationally. Starting in 2016, President Paul Kagame has been championing reforms in the African Union. Rwanda has also been involved in peacekeeping missions around the world since 2004. And on Saturday, troops and police will be sent for a peacekeeping mission in the province of Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique due to the terrorist attacks that are still going on there. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
Now, the Rwanda Investigation Bureau has issued a public notice warning the general public against fraudsters conducting illegal businesses. The Bureau has paraded a group of 5 individuals who allegedly sold a house that did not belong to them in Gatenga sector here in Gichukiro district. Gabi Muvunyi with the details.
Jacqueline Nyaminga is a mother living in Nyanza Gatenga sector in Gichukiro district. Fraudsters falsely sold her home using fake documents. The fraudsters came and sold the house when we weren't around. The buyers of the house came and asked me to sign saying they had just bought the house. They told me that it is my husband that sold it to them. They asked me for the documents and they realized the information did not match. All 5 suspects in this case in the custody of RIB after being arrested following a complaint. 2 of them were commissioners. One is a landlord and the others were of getting signatures. Alphonse Nsendyumva carried the role of a landlord. They went to visit the house, and when they arrived, they called me and told me they were happy with the house. They asked me for a price, and I told them that it is 24 million. But they asked if I could reduce the price to 22 million. So we met when he was going to look for the money. Out of the 22 million, we agreed he could pay in 4 installments. So we were caught when we were going to receive the last installment. I don't know the house or the owner of the house. Fraudsters make their deals very appealing to their victims. The house they sold was valued at 50 million, but they cut down the price on it, claiming the owner has a sick child and needs the money as soon as possible. Ange Uwineza, who had bought the house, says she was shocked to find out the house already has an owner. The agreement took part in my absence, and in fact, I was supposed to follow it up. So when I got to the house, I found that the owners were there, and I showed them the documents of the house, and they brought out theirs so we could compare them. At that point, we had already paid all the money. We had no evidence that could get them arrested because all their documents were fake. The RIB spokesperson, Dr. Thierry Murangira, says this is not the first time fraudsters have been convicted of such crimes. He explains the charges against them. They are being charged with 4 charges: for forming a group to carry out criminal activities and joining it, using other persons' documents to carry out criminal activities, forging documents and signatures, and also forging currencies as well. For all of them, these are repeat offenses. The Rwanda Investigation Bureau is calling on members of the public to be more cautious and vigilant with cash transactions in order to avoid falling victim to fraudsters. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
We have a guest anchor with me tonight, and of course it is Aristide Mugabe. Thank you very much for making time to be with us, Aristide.
Thank you for having me.
So who is Aristide Mugabe as we start off our interview?
Aristide Mugabe is Rwandese, young, born and raised in Huye. I play basketball. I think that's what people knows me from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Congratulations on BAL. How was that experience for you?
Thank you. It was a very good experience. It was worth it to have it. We were so excited to be participating for from the first time, and we're glad we came up strong. Fourth place wasn't bad at all, but we wanted to do some big more, but we see how it goes next time.
So if you're not playing basketball, what would you be? A news anchor? Because clearly you did a good job tonight.
Would you hire me?
I'm sure our boss will be like, yeah.
When I'm not playing, I do some other work. I'm an accountant.
You studied accountancy in school?
Yeah, I did finance in university.
Oh, awesome. So what has been your highlight of your career so far? I know it's not that huge, but so far what has been your biggest highlight for your career?
I mean, I've won some trophies in a national league eight times, maybe in 14 years. I think it's not that bad. I've been most valuable player in national league for a few years, and I won a Zone 5 title. That was MVP of the Zone 5, 2 times top scorer of the Zone 5. I've been a member of the national team for a long time, and I've been captain for almost 5 years for the national team. And I've been blessed to be part of the winning teams in Rwanda, such Patriot and Espoir. Yeah, I think I've done a lot, but it's hard to be in details.
That's true. You know, there's all over the internet this week, or rather last week or this week, there's been a story that you've been recalled to the national basketball team after 3 years. How does this feel if it's confirmed?
That was not okay. I saw it on news, but I can't say much about it until there's a public release, an official statement from the Basketball Federation. But it will be honored if I'm selected.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you've told us your journey through basketball. I mean, what do you feel about your journey, and what more needs to be done, especially in basketball in the country today? Because I'm sure it has been a step by step over the years.
For myself, I feel proud of where I am today in a basketball journey. It has been ups and downs, of course, but I'm happy that I've won more than what I lost. And for Rwanda basketball, I think we need to invest more in youth, starting from the scratch, from young age, to start training kids how to play basketball the right way. That's the only way we grow as a country in basketball.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's the thing that we do not know about your state? You've told us you're an accountant. You've told us that you play basketball and you love basketball. What's your favorite meal? What's your favorite music? What don't we know about you?
I think it's hard to answer, but talking about music, I can love music. I listen to every style of music, but most of hip hop and dancehall, and of course Rwandan music. And
who's your favorite Rwandan artist, if I was to throw it in there?
Bruce Melody. The band, Riderman, Micah Ihura. Yeah, there are so many to mention, but
maybe as you sum up, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself, Aristide?
I think I'll be more older than I am today. Of course, I have my experience in life, and I think I will have done something more valuable to myself, my family, and the country as well.
So to the young ones who are watching, who aspire to be you, who aspire to even be greater, as they join the basketball teams, what would be your advice to them?
I would tell them to love what they do. Just put in work every day. It doesn't come easy. You don't have to give up. You have to be disciplined about it. Make sure you get better every day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aristide, for making time to be with us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
It was our pleasure. Well, thank you very much for joining us from wherever you're watching us from. Have yourselves a lovely Friday, and do remember that COVID-19 is still here with us. You have an important role to play as we continue to fight this and to flatten the curve in the country. Have yourselves a blessed and fruitful weekend ahead. From me, Fiona Mbabazi.